So I think I've just started this live stream. It's Sunday night, so we are going live. My wife is right over here to take your questions, operate the chat board. We've been having, fingers crossed, we've been having some technical issues. My Sean Chandler Talks About account can't actually respond inside of the chat board with you guys. Like, I can't write anything.
It's too early to start coughing.
That's a bad sign if I'm coughing this early. I can't write anything, so we're working to try and get a second account. And can you moderate?
Yep, I'm moderating.
All right, so we think we've got it set up so that she can moderate, she can respond to people, she can block people, she can do all that fun stuff. But can you say hello for everyone?
Hello.
That's all you got?
You said say hello.
You did, in fact, say hello. So, it's Sunday night, so we've heard just enough about the weekend box office. It looks like Solo's doing just as bad in its second weekend as it did in its first weekend. Huge drop-off. So, not only did it launch disappointing, it doesn't look like it's going to have legs either. I mean, just dropped straight out. And I read an article, or read a tweet that said that this weekend's box office is the lowest June box office in 15 years. So going all the way back to 2003, The Sum of All Fears starring Ben Affleck made however much money it made, and the total box office of all the movies was like $99.8 million. And this weekend it's like less than that. Lowest in 15 years, and you've got a Star Wars movie that came out a week ago, and you got a Deadpool movie that came out 2 weeks ago. And so, man, I don't know if that just means there's something funky going on at the box office and people are wanting to do other things right now or whatever. But it's an interesting little time at the box office right now and how all that stuff is kind of working out. What do you got for me?
Why are you live streaming during Westworld?
Why am I live streaming? Because this is when we can. This is when we are available, and we watch Westworld, but we don't watch it live, so it doesn't matter to us that it's live right now. We weren't going to watch it until our kids went to bed anyway. They just went to bed. This is our opportunity to go live, and it's the weekend, and so this is when we go live with stuff. So that's why we are streaming live during Westworld.
Do you have any plans when you hit 50,000 subscribers?
No, the problem is that I've been, like, when you first start out, I mean, it took me 9 months to get my first 1,000 subscribers. So that's a long time. 9 months to come up with an idea for what to do for your next, to come up with your milestone. And then it took me 3 more months to get my second 1,000 subscribers. And so then that's at least 3 months to try and, like, get excited about, figure out what you're going to do next. But as of recently, I've been growing so fast. I mean, at the beginning of this year, at February 1st, I was under 10,000 subscribers. So I've added over 30,000 subscribers in about 3 months. That's a lot. And so I don't have any idea. Like, I've run out. I have some little things I've been like, maybe I could do this, maybe I could do this. But there's just not enough big exciting things at kind of the pace at which I'm hitting them. So 50,000 seems like that's a big deal. But more importantly is that my 2-year anniversary on YouTube is in July. And so my goal is to hit 50,000 by the time I hit my 2-year anniversary, which should be pretty easy to be able to pull that off. But I'm probably going to have a lot more things that line up with my 2-year anniversary. So I'll do maybe some best of stuff, videos that people have missed, read and mean comments. I haven't done one of those in a long time. Stuff like that. I've got a bunch of ideas that kind of line up more with 2-year anniversary that also will be at about 50,000 subscribers. But at the current rate, I'll probably hit it by the end of this month. I've already added 300 subscribers today, which is just bonkers. My DCU villains video has been more successful than I thought it would be.
Any music suggestions?
Music suggestions? No, I don't have. I am not on the cutting edge of music at all. There was a time that I was, or a time that I was kind of in on punk, ska type music, and had all sorts of knowledge of things. But then, as you get older, you kind of lock in on your taste in music, and then likewise, you don't have time to look things up. And then the new music, it's designed for people that are like 20 years younger than me. And then I worked with teenagers for 10 years, and so that made me have really terrible taste in music because I like a bunch of stuff that people my age probably shouldn't enjoy. So I don't have any music recommendations for you. The only stuff that I'm not cutting edge on anything at the moment. So unfortunately, no music suggestions. Did you disappear?
I'm sorry, our invalid dog needed my attention. What's your reaction to the Boba Fett movie being announced?
What's my reaction to the Boba Fett movie being announced? Sorry, I wasn't coughing until I hit stream, and then I've been coughing ever since. I've always thought it was a terrible idea for a movie. I mean, I think it's a dreadful idea for a movie because Boba Fett is interesting because we don't know anything about him. He's the mysterious guy in a helmet, so we don't see his face. We didn't know his origin originally. He's just the bounty hunter that looked cool, that was able to take out Han Solo. That's pretty cool. But then when you start doing, oh no, he's one of the clones. He's the original clone of the clone troopers, and his dad's Jango Fett, and so he looks just like his dad. So that's what he looks like underneath the mask. All that stuff, that's too much information. I hate that origin story for who Boba Fett is. And then the idea of doing a movie about him, I just don't. I'm having a hard time seeing how it could work. I hate the idea that we keep going back to the same window of time of the 1, 2 years, 5, this slight prequels to A New Hope with characters that we've already seen before. I hate all of that we're locked in on it. I didn't hate Solo as a thing in and of itself, but the strategy that they're doing of just returning back to whether it's Star Wars Rebels, Solo, Rogue One, Boba Fett, we keep going to the same period of time talking about the same events or with the same characters. I hate that they're doing that. I want them to expand the universe, and it's opportunity costs. If you choose to do a Boba Fett movie, that means you can't do a different movie that's set across the universe or set 1,000 years ago or set 1,000 years in the future. You can't do that movie that year because you're doing the Boba Fett movie. That's the problem for me. You can't do something like if you choose to do Rebels as the cartoon for the previous 4 years or whatever, that means you didn't do a Star Wars series that was set after Return of the Jedi. There's an opportunity cost to everything you say yes to means you have to say no to something else. And they're saying yes to some of the least interesting things you could do. And I enjoyed Han Solo, but that's the least interesting movie you could possibly make. It's just a marketing decision, and people are picking up on their game. That's why the movie didn't do very well, because it's not particularly interesting to tell the story of what was Han Solo doing, a few years before he was a smuggler guy. So I'm not particularly excited. My one caveat to that is where they ended Solo. It made me interested in the world of the underground, and if they made a movie where maybe Boba Fett's the point of view character and Han Solo shows up for part of it, but it's really more about a heist or a smuggling underworld type stuff, and he doesn't take the helmet off. We're not learning about his girlfriend or something like that. He's got the helmet. It's like the movie Dread, as some other people have compared it to. Maybe I'd be open to that, but in general, I think it's a terrible idea.
Will you be reviewing Westworld Season 1?
Season 1? No. I won't be reviewing Season 1 because it's just too late. No, there'd be no one interested in it. I plan to review Season 2 most likely. Whenever Season 2 ends, I'll put up a review of the season, I think. But doing a review of a TV series, those are very timely. People want them right kind of when either the season starts or the season ends, and just kind of randomly here's my Season 1 review would be weird. And I haven't watched it in a year, so... and with a show like Westworld, in order for me to do a review, I'd have to do a bunch of homework. I'd be reading articles, I'd be watching videos just to catch me up to speed. I'm very sorry on where things are at, or be able to review it. I'd have to just even remember because it's so complicated.
You've addressed this before, but
I have.
It comes up in most live streams. Why did you start your YouTube channel?
Yeah, it literally is. Every single time I do a live stream, someone asks me this question. I've just always been the guy that's been interested in movies. I've been always the person that kind of talks about movies. Back in the 90s when I was in high school, because I'm kind of old, I had web pages. I had a Star Wars web page. I had a Jackie Chan web page. I was that guy. And then I was always the guy in the comment section, whether that was the IMDb bulletin boards or the Collider.com comment section on their articles or on YouTube. I was in the comment section, having opinions, wanting to talk with people. And so starting back about 5 years ago, I had a busier phase of life, but I tried to put some videos up. They're still up on my channel, like reviewing Amazing Spider-Man 2, Season 1 of Arrow, stuff like that. And I just couldn't stick with it because life was too busy. But I also did a lot of public speaking, so being on camera, it was pretty easy for me to have kind of personality, energy, articulate things in a concise manner that's intriguing and has insight. That's was kind of my background. And so I just kind of started, didn't work. Then 2 years ago, literally 2 years ago as of 2 days from now, I was unemployed and didn't have a job. Remembered I had this channel, went to go see Ghostbusters and was like, well, Ghostbusters is pretty cool. And just decided to talk about it afterwards. And not that I love the movie, it's very mediocre. Even my review then was very kind of mediocre on it, but like, well, it's cool. Like, why not just start talking about it? I have the free time. So, started talking about Ghostbusters, posted a review, put up a few more, and for whatever reason, I had enough success that I just kept doing it. Jump forward 23 months now, because I'm almost at 2 years, and still doing it, and people enjoy that me talking about stuff, so I kept doing it, and it kept growing. So here we are today. My 2 year anniversary is next month, so I'm hoping to hit 50,000 subscribers by then, and yeah, pretty excited about the potential in a lot of things.
Someone said, "Is that a green screen?" I
No.
assume they mean what's behind you.
No, none of this is green screen. I mean, it's all, posters and... It's not green screen. I've gotten a lot of comments asking me, is it green screen? I guess because I changed out the posters, but it's not. I bought... I had this...
Bought out Hobby Lobby.
Yeah, I bought out Hobby Lobby. I had this one right here going back, I don't know, 2-3 years or something like that. And I remember it being fairly reasonably priced when I bought it. So when I was building this a month ago, I wanted to figure out what to do because without posters, it felt a little bit empty, looked a little bit too much like Chris Stuckman's set and things like that. So I was trying to find ways to make it look distinctive and different. And so I remembered this poster right here. So I went back to Hobby Lobby to see what they had, if there's ways to get more of those. And there was. There's a lot more of them. And by luck, they were on sale. They were on sale when I did it, so I tried to buy a set of MCU posters or Marvel posters, and then I bought a set of DC posters. Then I went on Amazon and tried to get a set of Star Wars posters, and then I just tried to get a couple these other ones too. This one right here was Finding Nemo was like only $5. I found it on Amazon. This one right here was more expensive, but she loves Jaws, so it was worth it. So then I've got.
So sweet.
I think I've got 14 of them. That's essentially where all this stuff came from. But yeah, this is an actual set behind me and everything.
Are you able to see if there's super chats?
I can see, and there are none.
Okay, I just can't. I haven't seen any, and which is fine. I'm not trying to beg. Because we haven't used this.
Yeah.
Account.
So just if you guys are tuning in a little bit late, we've been having technical problems for the last month with my personal YouTube account in these chat board sections, and so we'd missed some super chats in the past. We couldn't respond to comments, and so we set up. My wife made a new account for her, made her a moderator.
Chandler talks about.
What?
Mrs.
Sean Chandler talks about. That's my wife. And so we fixed a few things. If you definitely want your question to be answered, if you throw a super chat in, we will answer it. We will respond to all of those. Just making sure you know all that fun stuff. What do we got?
Arrowverse versus Smallville.
Arrowverse versus Smallville. That's a little bit tough.
It's tough because of nostalgia.
Yeah, Smallville has more nostalgia. And whereas right now we're in the middle of Arrowverse and all the things that are weird and frustrating about it.
Did you like seasons 1 through 3 of Arrow or 1 through 2?
1 and 2, and then 5 and 6 have had things I've really liked and things I didn't like.
Seasons 1 and 2 of Smallville to seasons 1 and 2 of Arrow. I know that's not really fair,
it's even more nostalgia when you start doing it. Like I don't think I can pick. Man. Like, if I had to go with, I've got one set to go on a desert island, I probably would go with Smallville. If I get the whole set versus, even if you just called it Flash and Arrow, the 10 seasons we've got of those two ones versus the 10 seasons of Smallville, I'd probably go with Smallville for nostalgia reasons. But I'm not really even sure, though. Even saying that, it's tough to say. And they're probably... I'll say this. I'd say the high points, the good seasons of like Arrow season 1, season 2, Flash season 1, I think that those 3 seasons are stronger, more consistent seasons than any of the seasons of Smallville. Smallville always had very uneven seasons. You want me to turn my phone off?
Yeah,
but
it's distracting.
hey, good news, everybody. Sherwin-Williams Pro has a discount on paint. I just got a text message about that. So if you are looking to buy some professional paint from Sherwin-Williams, it is on sale. So that's kind of where my answer kind of lies. It's tough.
Rocky 1 or First Blood?
Rocky 1. I think Rocky 1 is like in the category of greatest of a genre of film ever made. And First Blood is just a great movie. Which, just a great movie is still great, because it means you're still great. So I don't mean that as a slight. But I don't think there's a genre where you would say, inside of this genre, First Blood is the best of that genre, where when you think about sports movies, sports dramas, Rocky is a truly iconic Oscar-winning film. First Blood is not.
What actor would you pick to play you in a biopic?
Chris Hemsworth.
Really?
Chris Pratt.
One of the
Chris
Chris's.
Pine. Maybe Chris Evans. They're doing a biopic for me right now. I think you just have to go with one of these. Because in the comments section, actually today's, I think on my DC Villains video today, the new comment was Chris Pratt plus Chris Pine equals Sean Chandler. So I think one of those two is what the internet has decided that you have to go with. Even though both of those guys are a little bit older than me. They're both a year or two older than me. So I don't know how that would work. Whereas that Chris Hemsworth guy, he's like a little kid. He's like 2 years younger than me.
He's not like a little kid. He's a man. As per Drax.
This is a man. He's a dude.
Okay. Have you seen a movie in 4DX?
No, I have not seen a movie in 4DX. I haven't done anything. Seen a movie in IMAX, but any of the weird kind of D-Box, I haven't done any of those things.
Sorry. What are your thoughts about the Venom movie?
I can't say I'm excited about it. Like, the most interesting thing about it for me is that Tom Hardy's in it. Tom Hardy tends to make good choices when it comes to movies. The trailers themselves have struck me as odd. They haven't sold me on exactly what the angle is with the movie, so I'm not sure what I think about it. But being that this movie called Upgrade came out this weekend, that's kind of a mirror to the movie Venom, because Logan Marshall Green, the guy that starts in Upgrade, looks like Tom Hardy. True. And it's about a guy that gets this thing that enhances him and takes control of his body and talks inside of his head, which is the movie Venom. So now I'm interested in Venom because I want to see, does Tom Hardy win or Logan Marshall Green? Which one of them is better at having something take over their body and enhance them as they become kind of an anti-hero? But I'm just... And even the fact that they can't decide if it's part of the MCU or how connected it is to the MCU, if it's totally disconnected from the MCU, does it connect with Spider-Man Home? Even that they can't answer those questions, and the idea of having a Venom movie that might be not connected to Spider-Man, just all that seems very odd to me. So I can't get too excited about it.
Have you seen Stand By Me?
I haven't seen Stand By Me.
We own it.
We own it. I swore to Cody Leach I was going to watch it back in like October.
You swore to Cody Leach?
I swore at him. Like double guns lift. But I haven't watched it. It just hasn't happened. So, but I own it. So one of these days it'll happen.
What is your favorite Netflix original show?
Daredevil.
Completely.
Pretty straightforward. It's just the Daredevil. I love the kind of everything about the cast, the stories, the choreography, the dialogue, just all sorts of elements. I love it. But they got a lot of stuff that I really dig. I'm watching the Toys That Made Us right now, loving that. So big fan of Netflix.
Someone says you sound like Ed Helms. A little bit like Ed Helms. Andy?
Yes, Andy Dwyer.
Bernard.
Andy Dwyer. That's Chris Pratt. Like, I'm getting all these people I'm being compared to. It's my brain is just mixing them together. So the Andy Dwyer Bernard, that's who apparently I am.
Ugh.
We're not the biggest fans of him.
We're in the middle of the wrong season of The Office to like Andy.
Well, Andy, he's not a particularly likable character on this show. They try to make him likable, but he's just not.
At the beginning, he was tolerable.
He's horrible at the beginning.
No.
Because he's the guy that was a big tuna, his anger issues, mirroring, like he's obnoxious, and then they rewrote the character after he went to... Anyway, we're talking about Andy Bernard for a while, but he's awful, and then he's slightly more endearing, but dumb, and then he just got ridiculous in the last... Anyway.
Have you answered what your best favorite Spielberg movie is?
They ask me that every single time. I don't have an answer. It's one of those ones that, what's your favorite? And just trying to kind of back me in a corner of someone that has like one of the best dramas of all time, best adventure movie of all time, best thriller dinosaur movie of all time. Both of the two best adventure movies of all time. He's got them. And I haven't even thrown Jaws in the mix. Those are the best water thriller of all time. When you've got a guy that has that resume, and like for me, his like, his kind of second tier stuff like Minority Report, Catch Me If You Can. When that's your second tier, or Lincoln is when your career starts slowing down and you're only putting stuff out like Lincoln. There's just too many great ones to be able to pick which one's the best. If I do weird gestures like this, it's because my auto sensor on my camera picks up my skin tone weird. So I do things like this to try and set it, and then it goes back to bad. When I don't wear white shirts, my camera doesn't work well.
We are going to rank The Office, or you are going to rank The Office.
Yeah, I plan to rank The Office whenever we finish torturing ourselves rewatching season 9.
So bad.
It's not gonna. Season 9 is probably gonna be in my top 3 favorite seasons.
Liar. Do you think the MCU will be willing to give the Inhumans royal family another chance?
Nope. I think the Inhumans have been flushed down the toilet. They are gone. They botched that so bad that there's no hope for it at this point in time. Some of it's just the simple fact of the matter that they did a TV show. Everyone hated it. It was horrible. You can't really do anything with that now. It's not like with The Incredible Hulk, where it was like a movie that wasn't super well received, didn't do great at the box office, but also didn't do damage. It was just kind of like, okay, mediocre film, but it didn't paint you in a corner. It didn't cause trouble for you. What they did with the Inhumans and this whole world on the moon, everything about it was just terrible. So people hate it. Like the Inhumans as a brand is just gone. It's just destroyed by what they did with it. So they're not going to do anything with the Inhumans for a long time.
Whatever happened to Masters of Movie Trivia?
So if you don't know what he's talking about, back a year ago, I did like a 4-episode run of a movie trivia show on my channel. Partially because I just wanted to compete in movie trivia myself. I wanted to just assert my dominance in movie trivia. And so I just kind of developed a movie trivia show, wrote out rules, and then did it with some fellow movie reviewer people here on the YouTubes. And did 4 episodes, and they did all right. As for the size of my channel at the time, they did all right. And I at the time wanted to do more seasons, and then I finished doing season 1 and decided I didn't want to do anymore. And it was just the simple fact of the matter that to do an episode, to organize, to have 4 other YouTubers all there at the same time, film something, send it to me, that takes a lot of time. To be able to write questions takes an enormous amount of time. Like to write a good movie trivia question is really hard because it's not just a matter of looking up some random fact. Anyone can look up a random fact. But something that a great question makes people go, ooh, what is that? What is it? And it's like right on the tip of their tongue. Like they feel like they know it. That's a great question. That it feels it's like something you should know or could know, as opposed to who edited Halloween H2O? Stuart Baird? There's just not a lot. Like the questions like that are just too difficult for anybody to guess. So that takes some time. And then editing together footage from 5 different people with different aspect ratio, that takes an enormous amount of time. And then everyone's camera's cut off at 12 minutes, and so syncing everything up, that takes an enormous amount of time. So it just took too long. To be able to do more episodes would mean I'd have to stop everything else I was doing. Right now, I certainly couldn't do any more content because I put so much time into my ranking videos when I create them and other content that there's not time to create something like that. And I just don't even know what it would look like. If some other YouTuber wants to borrow my brand, I will work with you. I will write you questions. But as for me, I don't see myself continuing it in the near future.
Your hair looks great, Sean.
That's what my wife told me. She was a big fan of my hair today. It worked out nice. I am not very good with my hair, so sometimes it works out good and sometimes it looks weird.
Super chat.
We got a super chat. Thank you.
John Sturcio.
Okay.
Would you ever be interested in watching Studio Ghibli animated films? They are like the Pixar of Japan, but even better in my opinion.
Yeah, so I get a lot of people that ask about watching the Studio Ghibli films, and it's like I'd be totally open to it. It's not even a would I yes, would I no sort of situation. It more for me falls into the category of time. And if I was doing this full time, I could kind of lock out this. I'm going to watch all the Tarantino movies this month, and then this month I'm going to watch all the Fincher ones, and then next month I'm going to do all the Studio Ghibli films. But as of right now, I just don't. Just to keep up with the big franchises putting out movies, and then trying to watch The Flash and Arrow to do rankings for those ones, and just the main content on my channel, trying to catch up with them that I naturally gravitate towards, I'm struggling to keep up. And it's difficult because I have a full-time job. I work 40 hours a week delivering paint for a living. And I have a wife that's pregnant. I got 2 kids. We have Taekwondo a couple days per week. A lot of stuff I have to do. And so it just makes it difficult for me to kind of watch every movie by a director, every movie from a studio to make things happen, if it's not something that I'm already naturally kind of watching anyway. Pixar, Marvel movies. Pixar are easier because my kids are watching most of them, so I catch most of them, and I just have to fill in the gaps that we missed, and I can show it to my kids. Star Wars movies, likewise. I'm going to watch those, show them to my kids. Marvel, I'm just going to watch them in them myself because I enjoy them. Studio Ghibli, it's something that I have to lock in just for me to try and watch. That's the thing that's kind of the holdup. I'd be totally open to it, but that's all these ones where people are like, can you rank all the Kubrick films? Can you? That's the reason behind all those types of ones, why it's just hard for me to catch up to be able to do them.
I think the kids and I watched one of them at April's house. But anyway, super chat from Malachi Mohan. Sorry if I said that
Thank you,
wrong.
Malachi Mohan.
How was Coco?
How was Coco? I have a review up on my channel. I dug it. I liked it. I thought it was a fun movie. I thought it had an energy, a creativity, a visual vibrance to the way it was shot and everything like that. To me, it felt predictable to me. I felt as I was watching it, I went, oh, okay. Oh, I see who this guy's going to play out to be. And, oh, this isn't going to turn out to be good right here. And, oh, there's definitely it's not going to be this. So I started piecing things together pretty quickly on how the different things were going to play out. And I felt that I got into some discussions about this with some people on my review, but I pointed in my review, the way that adults treated the children in it made me uncomfortable because they're so harsh, dictator, controlling. And some people were like, no, some cultures are just like that. And so to criticize that in the movies, really to criticize the culture. Perhaps so, but as a person just watching a movie, it was uncomfortable. Like, it wasn't something that I was resonating with or comfortable with the way it played out. I do not function in that level of kids don't get to have an opinion. Like, I just see that and I go, this is odd. So some of that felt off to me, but the other things about it I really dug.
Yeah. I already answered this, but are you going to be watching Meg?
Yeah.
Absolutely, we are.
Yeah. Yeah, so she is very much into shark movies. She's a bigger fan of this one over here.
Back in the day of Blockbuster, I wasn't allowed to walk near the shark movie area because I would inevitably pick one, and he didn't want to watch all the bad ones I wanted to watch.
Yeah, she, like, the crappy shark movies, she's even into that stuff. And so my plan is
I like watching them at least once. Like, it's not that I like... I had taste with Deep Blue Sea 2. Not a fan. There's some... Sharks in Venice was abysmal. I should have known that going into
absolutely,
it.
I plan it. And actually, it's based on a book, so I need to get the book. I'll probably go through that soon, actually. I might even buy that tonight before I go to bed tonight. Add that to my list. But, and then I'll rank the Jaws movies whenever it comes out. That's the plan. So the Jawsies will be ranked right around then, too.
I'm so excited. That's like probably the one movie that I'm excited about upcoming that I could think of. If anybody was like, hey, what are you excited about? Meg. That's...
The first Purge?
Nope. Sorry. Would you consider ranking Infinity War deaths?
Yeah, I keep getting people asking about ranking the Infinity War deaths. I don't think so. It's not even one that I could really do without having the Blu-ray. Because, it's so specific that it makes it difficult. And I just don't even know what I'd be ranking. It just seems like a very macabre thing to be like, the way that Bucky fell down there versus... so I just don't think I would know what to rank with it, with the way that I think through things and come up with the way to come up with my rankings. I don't know what I would have to say, and it would have to be after the Blu-ray came out so that I could actually watch it and rewind it and watch them again and compare and contrast them in that context. Because just, based on I watched the movie a month ago a couple of times, I'd have to even look up notes to see who died and then how did they die. Okay. Watching it one time, as soon as one person finishes dying, the next person starts dying. There's all sorts of things that would make it difficult for me to do that ranking with it not on Blu-ray. And by the time it's on Blu-ray, it seems way too late to rank that. So I don't think so, for a bunch of reasons.
Sorry, I'm answering a question. Are you excited about Fallen Kingdom, and how do you think it's going to do in its opening weekend?
Am I excited about Fallen Kingdom? Yeah, we love Jurassic Park. That's why I'm doing the Journey to Fallen Kingdom series. It's not really Journey to Fallen Kingdom. I'm just reviewing the Jurassic Park movies.
Dramatic.
Yeah, I actually start off my video for tomorrow. To even get the way I kick off tomorrow's video on The Lost World, I go, we're in week 2 of my series, Journey to Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I literally started off like that, doing this big dramatic gesture. But I love the Jurassic Park movies, even the ones that aren't great. It's still a cool franchise because there's just enough greatness in there to be excited about. So I'm excited about it. Plus, people tell me I look like Chris Pratt, so I'm excited about that. And then I like the first Jurassic World. It's just a big, dumb blockbuster. That's like my type of just big, dumb blockbuster, especially the fact that Chris Pratt's in it. So I'm down for that. The trailers haven't been crazy for me, or haven't kind of been blowing my mind. But at the same time, they've been good enough for me to be excited about the film. So absolutely, I am.
Super Chat.
Super Chat, thank you.
Rich Reviews. Thoughts on ABC possibly spinning off the Darlene character?
What's the context?
That's
I'm sorry that it's especially with the Super Chat that I don't know right off the bat what to... Oh, I know. I think it's Roseanne.
Oh,
Roseanne. That's right. I had to piece that one together. I haven't watched any of the revival of Roseanne thus far. Now, obviously, it was canceled, and so everyone lost their job. But everyone lost their job only because Roseanne Barr, the human being, is a monster, not because of anything else anyone else did. The numbers and ratings were all great. And so basically, apparently, Roseanne went in to pitch to them a bunch of ideas for spin-offs so that everyone else could keep their jobs, even though they don't want Roseanne Barr to have anything to do with it. Something like that. So I think that's what he's talking about as to what do I think about a Darlene spinoff. I just don't know. I'd have to know what the concept or what the actual pitch was, how that plays out. Is it just the show Roseanne minus Roseanne Barr, and so therefore everyone else is still in there? That seems kind of weird to me. Side characters becoming lead characters doesn't tend to do great. You've got Frasier. You have the example of it working. But that's not the norm of spin-offs just becoming hits that are just as big as the original. And I haven't seen the revival to even know what source material's there. And I haven't really watched the show Roseanne in 20 years. So I don't have much of anything. Like my main recollections of the last 20 years of the actress that plays Darlene is that she's in Scream 2, and I've watched Scream 2 pretty regularly. Was that helpful?
I'm sorry. There's a really funny question about military decisions. What do you think about Raylo?
What do I think about Raylo? I don't know. We'll have to see where it goes. I'm not crazy about the Kylo Ren character. it seems like an odd way to do the character, and it seems a little bit like they're even distinct things about what they did with Kylo Ren felt a little bit like they were trying to have a surprise for when you went to go see The Force Awakens for the first time. So Kylo Ren and all the marketing for The Force Awakens has the helmet on. The first 2/3 of the movie has the helmet on. And then once in the movie he takes the helmet off, he never puts the helmet back on in 2 movies. And then he's very whiny, emotional, which feels out of place for this Darth Vader impersonator type character. The way they did the mind bridging in Last Jedi I thought was odd. The shirtless Kylo Ren scene seemed very odd. There's just a lot of things that just have never fully worked for me. And Adam Driver, I've liked him in everything else I've seen him in. He seems a little bit like I don't know how much the character, how much the performance, or whatever, just hasn't resonated with me. So I don't immediately jump to, let's do Reylo. That's a great... I'm not... the more time passes, the less I like The Last Jedi too. So more I think about how I would have liked them to have done something different. So,
what's your favorite black and white movie?
Favorite black and white movie?
Can you think of a black and white movie that you've seen? That's my question.
Well, it's true. I mean, Citizen Kane is pretty incredible. The original... some of it's tough to know because they did computer colorized versions of them on a lot of them, so it also makes it confusing as to which one is which. Schindler's List is black and white, so that was a great one. I'm trying to think through even some of the old ones that are just kind of color, but it's like this faded color. So I was about to say A Fistful of Dollars, but Fistful of Dollars is not black and white. I'm not a guy that watches a lot of classics, so that makes it tricky. Christopher Nolan's The Following is in black and white, so there's some different thoughts in there. I don't have an immediate one that comes to mind. I'm not great at picking favorites, though, either, even though my reputation in the universe is based entirely around taking a set of things and saying, this one's the best, this one's the worst. I'm not very good at actually picking favorites.
Super chat.
Oh, thank you.
From Joey Jansen, and I think I've got 2 of them. I need you to double check in a minute, make sure I haven't missed any more. Are you excited to see The Incredibles 2, and why?
Yeah, I can scroll through these. Am I excited to see The Incredibles 2? The answer to that one would be yes, but not nearly as much as most people. Yeah, I'm seeing several super chats in here. Okay, if I just scroll back through it, there's...
that we haven't answered.
That are not answered. Okay. There's at least 2 besides this one. I'm not as excited as most people just because I don't... Animated films, I just don't draw me in the way they do other people. Some of it's just the fact that I'm a guy in my 30s that really Upgrade is a movie I was really excited about, want to talk about Upgrade because it's a sci-fi action movie where people's heads get blown off. That's kind of what I gravitate towards a little bit more than The Incredibles. And I'm excited for it just because it's Pixar. They're the best animated studio working right now. They have a great reputation. The original was great. But the reason I'd be most excited for it is the simple fact that when the original came out, it was before we really hit the current era of comic book movies, which is the MCU. So it's a movie that predated everything that kind of defines modern blockbuster cinema, because the MCU is the definitive bar. It's the thing that dominates. And then I don't remember the exact date of when it came out, but the Dark Knight hadn't come out yet. So other things that kind of dominated defining the genre. So the idea of a Pixar superhero story coming out in the current era, that's interesting to me. So I've got one. How was Coco? So we answered that one. JC Flag, what are your thoughts on The Flash and Nora Allen?
Is that his mom?
I think so. I'm not quite sure what it. I don't know if that's I don't know if you're spoiling the end of the season for it. So we haven't finished the current season of The Flash. So you could be spoiling something that it's shame on you for spoiling it for me. That's what we're going to do after tonight. I'm going to finish watching. We've got 3 or 4 episodes left. Once we're done with this, that's what we're going off to go do. When The Flash is good, The Flash is really good. It's a ton of fun, great, vibrant characters that have great chemistry, and just a nice, easy show to watch. And then there's the times where it turns into too much of a CW show, which is to say they repeat plot lines, they repeat villains, and they shift so hard into melodrama and don't know how to balance tragedy and just crappy angst. Like that works on Arrow because it's an angsty show, but when it in theory works on Arrow. It fits more on Arrow when it's done right. But on The Flash, when, season 3 was just so much of, I gotta save Irish, that it just, like, choked the fun out of the show. So it's a little bit tricky. I can't say anything about Nora Allen. I think that you're spoiling things for me. Hopefully you're not. Otherwise, I don't know what you're asking me. Did you find the other ones in there?
No, I wasn't. You said you were going to pull them up. So.
Well, I'll have to read. Darlene...
Are you going to rank the X-Men movie villains?
Is that a super chat?
Yes.
Okay, super chat.
Grunther.
Am I going to rank the X-Men movie villains? Mm-hmm. Probably. I'm trying to think about how I would do it because it's tricky. Because you even think the first X-Men movie, you've got Magneto, Toad, Mystique, Sabretooth. It's 4, and we're on movie number 1. And so that's where it gets tricky to do the X-Men ones because it's... And as soon as you start putting in side characters, then it gets so big. So do you just pick one villain per movie? And so then first movie's Magneto, second movie's Stryker, third movie's Magneto again? That's where it gets a little bit... That's where it's hard to say what it is because Stryker's number 2 and he's X-Men Origins. So I want to. It seems like there's a lot of interest. Villain rankings seem to do great. So in that regard, I'm interested. But at the same time, I'm just trying to figure out how to do it right. And that's where it's really tricky. Even on the MCU, since I posted, it's the most popular video on my channel. And since I posted, every single day I get someone, where's this person? Where's Crossbones? Where's this person? And I can't make a video that has every single person that's a villainous that has a name. So it's just tricky. Tyler Mitchell says, Thor, Rocket, Groot set up new team for Volume 3. I'm on board. If they had Chris Hemsworth as Thor join the Guardians of the Galaxy the way that, Spider-Man has Iron Man in there and then Captain America movies brought everybody into them. If they put Thor in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, 100% on board. I am totally down for them to do that. That would be... especially because the Guardians is one of the funniest of the MCU franchises. I mean, certainly the first one's one of my favorites. Chris Hemsworth is one of the funniest actors in the MCU. Just his timing and ability to play is so wonderful. And we saw that in Ragnarok, but we've seen it in other things as well. So, I'd be totally down for it.
The Skrill?
Yes.
Do you have any theories as to who that is?
Do I have any theories as to who that is? No. I do not have any theories on the Skrill. I'm aware of the Skrill. I've seen some things on who the Skrill are. I'm not a Skrill expert as to be able to give you insight, my thoughts, or anything, opinions on them, or theories. I don't have any theories, and I haven't read any articles that tied into the MCU and how they might do any of that fun stuff.
I'm sorry, can you scroll to the super chat window just make sure we didn't miss any more? You see them?
They're not stacked. I'm having to scroll through the whole thing. That's why it's...
It doesn't have it on the bottom left?
I'm trying to talk.
Okay, sorry. Well, that's the only... Normally, if you're in the creator studio, they're on the bottom left altogether.
Yeah, I can't.
Okay.
There's not a...
Well, hopefully I will not miss them.
Yeah, if we miss any super chats, we're very sorry about that. Just for whatever reason,
trying.
technology is giving us trouble. I mean, if you need to scroll through them, it's easier for you to do that than me because I'm talking.
Yes. Okay. Have you seen Open Water or 47 Meters Down?
Open Water, no. You have.
Yes.
You've seen Open Water. She gave an eye roll, so she doesn't like it and probably doesn't want to talk about it. 47 Meters, that's you stuff. 47 Meters Down, yeah, I saw it. I dug it for what it is. I mean, it's not trying to be prestige cinema. It's not trying to be even really like a great, anything like that. It's just trying to be like a thrilling, high concept. What if you were in a shark tank that got stuck underwater? It delivered on that. The last, I don't know. I can't decide if I dug the twists in the last 10 minutes of the movie or not. It's kind of interesting. They gave you a little bit of something that... they found a way to give you some of what you wanted without being too implausible in certain things, but they cheated to do some things, so I dug it enough.
Just as a random side note, if I say that he's answered another question or anything, or a question you're asking, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just trying to let you know that we've answered it and I'm not ignoring you.
Yeah, there's a if sometimes we have to be short because there's a lot of things that are written. So it's anything that's written in shorthand. It's not to be rude.
Yes, I'm not at all offended unless you're being offensive.
Yeah. And we're trying to answer as many questions as we can, as quickly as we can, and just a lot of questions get asked a lot.
Oh, someone said, "Is that your wife? If so, then her voice is like that of Elizabeth Banks."
That is my wife. I hadn't heard that one before. I hadn't thought that one before. So we'll take it as a compliment, Miss Banks.
Sorry. Creed is my favorite movie of all time. How do you feel about it?
We love Creed. We went to go. Rocky's one of these lifelong franchises for me. And so she got married. We got married, and then it was like
married by herself.
Yeah, she married her. We got married to each other, and very quickly she had to be indoctrinated into the world of Rocky. And I mean, I've always had the DVDs and the box sets, and to watch them all the time and the special features. So she got brought into the world of Stallone pretty heavily. So we were there opening night when Creed came out, and we took actually one of our students with us at the time to go see it. One of the people who watches movies with us all the time, also a big Rocky fan. We go to see it, and I think you were probably skeptical about the movie going into it. I was skeptical. Yeah, I was skeptical when they announced it. Like I was like, "This is the worst idea I've ever heard from."
It wasn't a movie I was anticipating, or it wasn't like, "Oh, this is going to be terrible." It wasn't something I wanted or knew that we needed.
Yeah, and like for me, when they announced that they were doing it, I thought it was the worst idea I'd ever heard for a movie. I mean, that's a little bit of hyperbole, but pretty close. What? Creed has a son that comes back to like this? What are you doing? And so we went to go see it. I loved it. The movie ends, and she like holds up her phone, and she's like, I don't know why she didn't just use her mouth device into my ear device, but she writes on her phone, top 5 of all time? Like something like that. Like it's one of her favorite movies of all time coming out of it. So yeah, we are fans of Creed. And I'm extraordinarily nervous about Creed 2 because Coogler didn't return. Stallone was hired to direct it for 2 months after a year of him teasing that he was writing and directing it. He was hired, and then 2 months later they decided to go with a millennial director, which the whole time that Stallone was writing it, he was old. And the whole time he was hired, he was old. So the idea that they swapped him out to get someone to direct it that's a millennial, that's not new logic. So I'm nervous about that one. What do we got?
Super chat from Adam Grunther.
Awesome, thank you.
If you could hang out with one Guardian of the Galaxy, along with one member from Legends of Tomorrow, who would you pick? Who would it be?
Hang out with?
Yeah.
I think I'd have to go with Drax because I'd get personalized.
Well, one from each.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. I'd get personalized Draxisms. Like right now, we all have to share Green Whore. Why is Gamora? I'm invisible. We have to share these.
Dude.
Can't go over my head. My reflexes are too fast. We have to share those. If I get to hang out with Drax, I get my own set of Draxisms. Legends of Tomorrow, I'd go with Ray Palmer.
Good call.
Just because he's Brandon Routh.
Yeah.
And then just seeing the two of them go back and forth would be interesting.
I think Ray Palmer would be really uncomfortable around Drax. Super chat from Rich Reviews.
Sweet. Thanks, man.
Thoughts on Andrew Lincoln leaving The Walking Dead in season 9? Also on the possibility of AMC paying Norman Reedus $20 million to stay on from season 9 on.
So what are my thoughts on Andrew Lincoln leaving and Norman Reedus staying for $20 million? My basic thought is good for him for leaving. They need to end the show. Just certain shows don't.
Don't you feel like a traitor now that they're filming it near us?
They're not filming it. They're filming the spin-off near us.
Oh.
If they're filming the main show near us, I'd probably start watching again. So if you don't know, Fear the Walking Dead this season has a segment on. There's like a baseball field, and that stadium is 5 minutes from my house. I drive by it every single day driving to work. And so that was pretty cool that they shot it near me. As for Andrew Lincoln leaving, not every show needs to go on for 20 seasons. Most shows cannot go on for 20 seasons, and most of the great shows of all time ended long before they hit 9 seasons. And that's because you run out of story and you start recycling ideas and looping. Walking Dead, from everything I've heard, is doing that. So there's no reason for, like, the idea that he's leaving, that's probably for the best. As for the show itself, it sounds like it's not going to be for the best for the show. When you're a guy that's the guy we've been following from the beginning, that's not going to be a good transition. And at a certain point in time where you just kind of keep on going, and you don't have an end in sight. And even though if our lead character leaves and we lose all these other people, we just kind of keep going. At a certain point in time, it just feels like, yeah, you are just doing this for the money. You are just, we know it brings in enough money, so let's keep dragging it out as long as it's profitable. And that's pretty distasteful to me. That's where I respect shows like Breaking Bad, that when it was at its peak and height, they were like, we've got 10 more episodes and we're done. Really? We'd love it if you could do it. We've got 10 more episodes of story. That's all we have. That's all the story we have. If we did more than that, we'd be making crap. And we don't want to do crap. We want to tell a contained story.
Don't want to do crap.
Yeah.
It just sounded funny.
We do not want to do crap.
Someone asked why you would pick Drax, because you wouldn't be able to see him.
Well, you can't see him in that one time if he's trying to be invisible, but he's only tried to be invisible that one time.
Yes, this is true. Hold on. Just what's happening.
I don't know.
Lord of the Rings: Return of the King versus Empire Strikes Back.
Empire Strikes Back. There's not even a...
Well, you're just not a Lord of the Rings fan either.
Yeah, I'm not a Lord of the Rings fan, so it's not a context. So we missed it. You're missing the super chats. JC Flag sent another one saying, sorry, don't mean to spoil it for you. So that means spoiler. Don't worry, man. That's with what I do with doing the YouTube stuff. I get comments. That's part of the game. That if I'm not caught up on things that I follow, that's on me. So don't worry about it. I'm teasing. It's just, as I was reading, it was like, I bet this ties into some sort of twist at the end of the season. So that's all. It's entirely a joke. You're totally cool with what I do. It's part of the game.
Who wins Human Torch versus Iceman?
Human Torch versus Iceman, and they're duking it out? Mm-hmm. I think Iceman wins because ice, you can create shields and barriers, and there's more kind of things that go along with it. Whereas fire, you can't. It's more complicated. I think Iceman, you get more options to win.
Are you excited for Captain Marvel?
Sure. I mean, whenever a Marvel movie is released, it's really good for my channel. So even if I wasn't excited for it as a cinematic level, for my YouTube channel, very excited. But yeah, I'm not really familiar with the character. But everything that the MCU has done, and they've got some movies I'm not crazy about, but everything that they've done has at least been interesting. It's been in a category of like, I'm glad that this exists, that could progress, move things forward, tell me stories that are interesting, introduce characters. Their casting's always great. So, and right now they are on a roll. Like they're in their sweet spot right now. So I'm totally game for it. And especially because I think it's set during the 90s. That's interesting to me that they're setting in the 90s. Little things like that is when there's intrigue and something different. That's when I start getting real interested.
Between Daniel Craig and Sean Connery, who is your favorite Bond?
Daniel Craig.
Interesting. That's what I said too. I was kind of expecting you to say Sean Connery.
Do you see me sitting around at the house watching Sean Connery
Bond films? Daniel Craig Bond films in a long time.
There was a lot more than I watched. I mean, it's just like I like the Bond movies. I'm not like a Bond freak, and I'm certainly not a Bond aficionado or anything like that. Do I feel the need to? I like the original. I'm not that guy. So it just kind of comes down to which ones do I watch the most? Which one is appeal to my sentimentalities the most? It's Daniel Craig, and I think you can make a strong case for him being very good at the role, in him having the physicality, him being suave, him being charming. He's got all the James Bond things, and if you define James Bond as Sean Connery, which a lot of people do, he's the original. He's the standard by which you evaluate people. If you do that, well, yeah, I mean, Sean Connery wins, but I'm not doing that, so Daniel Craig.
Will you rank the Flash seasons?
Yeah. Tuesday. Wednesday.
What movie scared you as a kid?
Nothing.
Nothing? Seriously, nothing. Nothing scared you as a child?
I watched Predator and I got a little bit late at night because it was after midnight.
This is why you make fun of me.
And then same with Aliens. I got a little bit stressed.
This makes a lot more sense with our life right now.
I've said this in the, like, you ask this question all the time, and I'm always like, movies don't scare me. That's why, like, horror movies.
Never, though? Like, never? As a small, impressionable child, they didn't scare you ever?
Like, gore scared me, because gore can weird me out. That's squeamish. But that's an actual fear of a biological response on my part of my body wigging out, and because I'm squeamish. But it's not that I'm afraid of a movie. What movie? Like, what would you think I would say?
I don't know. I just expect... I guess I expected you to have a soul at some point in your life.
It's just why, like, I don't resonate with it. Like, well, kids will be scared by it. Like, and you tell me, like, our kids will be afraid. Like, why would our kids be afraid of a movie? I just don't.
Y'all, this is so illuminating right now. Our conversation at home is all the time. What can the kids watch? What can't they watch? And I'm like, they'll be scared. That makes a lot more sense. I see a super chat. Oh no, that one we already did. I don't think I missed another one. I'll look again in a second. I can't believe that nothing scared you as a child. Have you seen Kylo Ren and Undercover Boss? The SNL skit?
Yes, I've seen the Kylo Ren Undercover Boss sketch. It's great.
It is funny.
Perfect example of Adam Driver, I think, being better at other things than being Kylo Ren. Even though he's Kylo Ren in that.
Are you excited for Tim Miller's Terminator sequel, or do you think the franchise should be left alone?
I'd have to know a little bit more about it. There's things that they could do that I'd hear about it and I'd get excited. And then there's a bunch of things they could say they're doing and I would feel the same way I feel about all these kind of Terminator sequel things they keep doing. I think that it'd probably be best to let it lie dormant until 2024. 2024, 40th anniversary, do a hard reboot of the franchise. And do the hard reboot and go back to the original vibe, which is it's a horror movie. It's a slasher movie, except it's a sci-fi movie. And it's an action movie. That's what makes it interesting, is that it's all those things. But what the original wasn't was a big blockbuster. Terminator 2, greatest sequel of all time, greatest action movie of all time, all the things that people praise on it, I'll agree with you. It is absolutely those things. But it ruined the franchise because it made studios think Terminator needs to be a blockbuster. It has to have a huge budget, and that's how you... And it doesn't work. It hasn't worked since 1991. James Cameron could make it work. No one else has been able to make it work. And it is... I don't know exactly why that is, but I think some of it's just the simple concept of it. It doesn't lend itself necessarily to being a big blockbuster. A big 21st century blockbuster. It lent itself to a 1991 blockbuster. But once again, that's James Cameron. And the original was just a slasher film with a low budget, shot by essentially a first-time director at nighttime that didn't know what he was doing. So I would go back to that in the year 2024. Let it lie at rest, and then hard reboot.
Sorry. Would you rank the Iron Man suit-up scenes?
I don't think so. I'd have to think about it. There's a lot of people asking me about, like, rank the Iron Man costumes and the suit-up scenes, and they get a little bit... They seem kind of niche to me, and they're not things that I naturally... The thing for me is when I think about what ranking videos to do and which ones to talk about, it has to have a hook inside of it for me personally. I have to, like, when you talk about the post-credit scenes, I kind of immediately a few of them I was like, that was just such a cool scene, and then we wait for every movie, and sometimes you watch them and you go, that was kind of disappointing. Like, that just, to me, felt like just a little scene, but wasn't memorable. So inherently in that, I'm kind of ranking things a little bit. Or, the Stan Lee ones. Some of them are great and you just want to talk about them. Other ones are like, that was a little bit cute. So there's a natural way to rank that. Or the movies, obviously. Which movie do you prefer? But when it comes to some of the things about the Iron Man costumes, I've never been watching an Iron Man movie or seen a new trailer and my mind went to, oh, look at how the suit looks. Jennifer, did you see how the suit looks? Like, I just don't work that. Like, that's not where I naturally gravitate towards. And you pay attention to the Iron Man costumes?
I do.
So maybe convince her to go for it, and maybe she can rank some of these ones. But that's kind of how I decide. And when the people put ideas out there, and sometimes at first I go, I don't know about that, and I have to sit on a little bit. So the one that's I've been sitting on for 2 months or so was ranking the MCU final battles. And I first heard that and I was like, is that stretching it too far? Is that I've run out of ideas and I'm just like looking for things to rank? And then people kept requesting it, and then I started thinking through, if I were to do that, what would I talk about? Well, I can immediately start going, oh yeah, the Ant-Man one, the end battle, I love that. Avengers, probably my favorite. And I think through, like, I love Guardians of the Galaxy. The final third act in it isn't the reason I love it, though. And so I can naturally start thinking through them in my mind and having opinions on it. And that's kind of how I decide. So I don't think I could do the suit-up sequences just because I don't have any sort of natural gravity pulling me towards that.
Tom Hardy as Wolverine, yay or nay? That's tricky.
Tom Hardy now, I mean, he wouldn't do it, and I don't think it's a good idea at this point in time because he's too established in other things. He's Venom, he's other things. If they cast Tom Hardy in the year 2010, sure, absolutely, that'd be great. Cast him instead of doing Bane in 2012, he comes out, he's the new Wolverine. In certain ways, he works better than Hugh Jackman because he's actually kind of a short guy, and so he fits better, whereas Hugh Jackman is really tall. This is another one. You ask me every time we do a live stream, someone asks me how Tom Hardy is.
He would have been great, 10 years ago?
Yeah, but now, I mean, he's about to hit 40. Like, he's a couple years older than me.
He would hit the same thing that we're hitting with Hugh Jackman.
Too soon. Yeah, if you were to say yes to it, Wolverine doesn't age. Tom Hardy does. And when you start at 40, I don't know that he's looking to start at age 40 having to be in the shape that he was in Warrior for the next 10 years. I just don't know that he want to do that. He's Venom, so he's already in a Marvel thing. And they're probably going to, in some way, end up in the same continuity. So I just don't think he would do it. It's not that he's a bad choice. It's not that he would do a bad part. He'd be a great choice 8 years ago.
Sorry. You already answered about Venom, right?
Yep, talked about Venom.
Okay, sorry. How do you feel about Fox releasing a Gambit movie in 2020?
This is not going to happen. It's one of those movies. There's always these movies kind of going on that they're talking about doing, and they just keep getting delayed and pushed back. So, The Crow. They've been talking about doing another Crow movie for 5 years, and then, we got Jason Momoa. Oh, Jason Momoa dropped that. He keeps cycling through people. Lethal Weapon 5, Rambo 5, Bill and Ted 3, Beverly Hills Cop 4. They have some of these ones they just keep cycling through, and one of those is this Gambit movie that Channing Tatum's supposed to star in. It never seemed like a good idea to me. I don't know why you would. I don't know why you wouldn't just do Gambit in the X-Men, and I don't know why you do a spin-off about him. He's already been in the universe in Origins, and so Taylor, I'd rather have Taylor Kitsch in the role than Channing Tatum, but. It just keeps getting delayed. Fox seems to be acquiring them. I don't want them to do it. I want them to hard reboot the X-Men universe. I don't want them to start little side projects that just muck things up. So I don't think it's going to happen, and it looks like a bad idea to me.
They want me to rank the MCU movies. That's totally... I don't think... I just did a bracket.
Bottom two would be Winter Soldier and Civil War. And then no one wants you to say the rest because they already hate you. Oh. You told me that. You told me that those are your bottom two.
I mean, I just can't think on the spot, so I certainly wouldn't be able to do it now. I did just do a romance bracket movie podcast with Rachel Wagner and Laura Durbin, but I think that's the only way I could function. Is like if I had a big list and then I picked between them and narrowed it down. I don't know that I could do a list like you do, like. Just numerically.
Well, that's essentially how I started, though, is that I start with one, and then I say, do I like this one more or less? And then less. Then I grab the next one. Is it here? Oh, it's between. And then I just kind of work my way through. That's actually how I make my rankings, is mapping them out kind of like that.
I've got some. Who do you think should be the Spider-Man Homecoming 2 villain? Do you think Mysterio is the right choice?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have naturally gravitated towards saying Mysterio, but as soon as they started talking about it, I was like, yeah, that's a nice new direction. 21st century special effects type things can make it work. It seems like they're building a little bit of a Sinister Six framework with some of it, and Vulture coming back. I don't have like my own like unique pick, my clever choice or anything like that. So I'm down for Mysterio, especially if you get like a crazy Jake Gyllenhaal. I'm down.
You love crazy Jake Gyllenhaal.
You haven't seen Nightcrawler.
I will not see Nightcrawler. I like sleeping.
It's true.
Will you ever rank the seasons of Lost?
Nope. And it's when I say that, essentially my ranking of the seasons of Lost would be last place is the last season, next to last, the next to last. Like it would be, it's essentially first place is the season 1, second place is season 2. It's essentially that. I thought it got worse as it went along, and then where it ended hurt the show, and it hurt where it ended. When I first watched it, I didn't hate it when I watched it, but then as I processed it, I was like, and it hurt really the last 3 seasons worse than it hurt the first 2 seasons.
It's still a running joke in other sitcoms.
Yeah.
Like we just watched, I don't remember what we were watching, but we were just watching, it was Flash. And there was a joke about the end of Lost as a joke inside the Flash.
Yeah, and it's a show that they're much better at building intrigue, and J.J. Abrams actually did a TED Talk about the mystery box and how do you build intrigue inside of a movie or a TV show. You have to have like this mystery box that has people wondering what's in there, and it's out here, and so we're building towards it, but J.J. Abrams is infamous for he's great at making you wonder what's in the box. He's horrible that when you open the box you're like, that's not interesting. Lost was that.
And they went back on some of the things that they said initially as well.
Yeah, they went back on the purgatory and the...
what the smoke monster was.
Yeah, what the smoke monster...
There were all sorts of indications where things were going, and then they switched directions.
Yeah.
Like, really drastically.
And so it's a show that, by the time it came to the end, it's hard to... It kind of puts a bad taste in your mouth of... Like, I've never rewatched it beginning to end. I've rewatched seasons 1 and 2 10 times. I haven't watched the last 3 seasons a second time, ever. I watched them when they aired.
I'm sorry. Sorry. Thoughts on Dark Phoenix and New Mutants?
I want Dark Phoenix to end this continuity of the X-Men because I want it to be hard rebooted in the MCU.
Is Dark Phoenix coming? Or it already happened?
It comes out next year. It's supposed to come...
Shut up. What?
Yeah.
Every single time the Dark Phoenix has come up, I thought you've been referencing...
No.
Famke.
No. They're doing it... It's the First Class. Like, it'll be like set in the 90s.
Oh my gosh.
They're doing...
I'm so excited.
She's very excited about this question. She's figured out what you're talking about. No, so they... they're doing like the First Class follow-up to Apocalypse. It's the Dark Phoenix saga. It comes out next year. It's supposed to come out this year, but with the Fox stuff going on, they pushed both New Mutants and Dark Phoenix to next year. So leading up to Dark Phoenix, I will. I'm gonna watch and kind of do Journey to Dark Phoenix. I'm gonna do one of those dues for the Delios for the X-Men movies. So just as you know,
it's not
things
as epic sounding.
Yeah,
the other one.
No, not quite.
Why,
but you can. There's a way. Dark Phoenix saga sounds pretty big. So there's a way to build. Something like, we can do something like that, but
I'm so stoked.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
But I want that to end the continuity and make New Mutants a standalone little pocket thing, and then hard reboot into the MCU, or just hard reboot on its own. But I think it needs a hard reboot. It's 20 years old. It's a 20-year-old continuity. There's so many limitations on what they can do in continuity issues because they're just stretching out this. They weren't thinking we're going to do a 20-year-long continuity, and that's in the post MCU world, X-Men feels kind of quaint and outdated. Hard reboot it, bring it into the modern era properly.
I'm so stoked. I'm so sorry.
She is stoked, guys.
That was like the best cartoon of all time.
She loved the cartoon. It was the best.
You're the worst.
I am the worst.
Best method actors?
Wesley Snipes.
Hands down.
You gotta go with Wesley Snipes. Just do a little YouTube search for Patton Oswalt talking about his experience on Blade 3, and you will just immediately say, Wesley Snipes, worst guy on Earth, best method actor on Earth.
Seriously, look it up.
Look it up.
After this, but yes, look it up. What movie are you most excited to show your kids when they're older?
What am I not showing them now?
Exactly. That's exactly
Terminator movies, Aliens, stuff like that.
Yeah. Please don't show them Aliens anytime soon. Please.
Maybe. So it's stuff like that. That's the stuff that I love. That's rated R that I can't show them yet. So I can show them Star Wars and MCU stuff to some extent, but probably not the best idea to show them Terminator 2 and just ripping the skin off his arm and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. How do you feel about Marvel going the Sinister Six route?
Good. I mean, I talked about. I literally talked about that when I was talking about the Spider-Man Homecoming.
Okay, I'm sorry. How do you feel about there only being 6 more episodes of Game of Thrones? Are you happy because of what your comments were with Walking Dead and other series is going on too long?
So, just for reference, I have seen 1.5 seasons of Game of Thrones, so my statement is only talking about strategic and storytelling. Yeah, absolutely. I think that they should end it. That's at a certain point in time, you're just straining credibility. You're stretching things out. You're not coming to a satisfying conclusion. You're not giving an answer to things. In the nature of they're battling for the throne, I think you have to come to an answer on that. And so the fact that they went, we've got through here, so we're going to end it. I think that's when any TV show decides that. They look at it and they say, our story ends at this point in time while they're still on top. That's for the best. Now, the actual final episode of Seinfeld, when they did that, was not a great final episode of the show, but I guess that means they just didn't have a good idea for a final episode. But they ended with a great run and just one episode that was bad. Hopefully, Game of Thrones, for people that watch it on a daily basis, that will not be the case for them.
Someone just affirmed that they also watched the Patton Oswalt interview, and it's fantastic. Definitely, if you haven't seen it, you have to watch it. It's almost like it'll almost make you a fan of the movie, even though the movie is so bad.
Yeah, it makes Blade Trinity a lot more interesting. It makes it a much better movie once you watch that interview, and there's some other ones out there with Ryan Reynolds has said some stuff about it. The director's kind of openly said some things about it. As soon as you know what the production was of the movie, when you watch it, it's a lot more enjoyable because you can enjoy. Yeah, you just find a lot more enjoyment in why it is the way it is.
What are your thoughts on what's going to happen in Avengers 4?
Like my
Do you have
theories?
predictions? Yeah.
Time travel, original heroes dying, people being brought back to life, and people we thought were dead aren't dead. They're just in the Soul Stone.
Any thoughts on Pixar theory?
I think it's an entertaining idea, well thought out. If you don't know what they're talking about, essentially a guy came up with a whole theory about how all the Pixar movies tied together into one continuity, and it's really interesting. It's a fascinating little setup and well researched, well thought out, and I think it's funny or entertaining, not funny. It's intriguing.
Super chat from Rich Reviews.
Sweet.
Do you
Thanks,
prefer Elliot Stabler or Olivia Benson era of SVU? Also thoughts on it being possible breaking 21 seasons.
I mean, Stabler is Benson too, so I wouldn't necessarily refer to the current era as the Benson era because she was on the show when Stabler was on the show. We stopped watching like 6 months ago because I hated it. Like I hated what they were doing with the show, and it just got so. political in all the wrong ways and so divisive in the way it was tackling things, and it always kind of touched on certain things, but it was doing it in a way that was just kind of like, I don't want, why are you doing this like this? Why are you picking these plot lines? What are you thinking? And so I just stopped watching about 6 months, and I'd seen every episode, like, was it 19, 20 seasons, watched 19, 20 seasons of show, and it just got so bad I stopped. The Stabler stuff is, of course, the better material. I think just the setup for the show was better because you had different, you had a good pairing that had great chemistry. And then when Stabler left, the concept of the show was still there, but it wasn't as strong, a little bit played out, and they didn't have that magic chemistry, that partnership there. And then they had to find out, what do you do with Benson now that other people are gone? So they promote her up to being over, and it's just, some of the magic's gone. And the show's unwatchable now.
Most underrated Rocky movie?
Most underrated? Mm-hmm. I don't know how you answer a question like that, because it's inside of a... Because people rate them all differently. Because the only one you could really say is the most the two that you could potentially say are the most underrated would be... I mean, I think the only one you can say is underrated is Rocky 5. Because it's the worst. It's, by all accounts, the worst of the Rocky movies. And the rest of them... You know, Creed and Rocky way up top, and all kind of those ones in the middle are divisive. It's not like there's one definitive, just way people rank them. People have different thoughts. Some people love Rocky 3 and 4 because of their 80s ridiculous excess. Other people don't love them. So I don't think you can say that one is the underrated one other than Rocky 5. And it's not underrated. It's just the worst. And maybe it's underrated because I think it still has value to it. In that sense, it's underrated. But beyond that, I don't think so.
Can you pitch Indiana Jones 5?
With Harrison Ford? No, because I don't. If you're wondering what I'm doing with my hands, if I didn't mention this before, my light settings are off, so I'm trying to fix it, and you can see me changing my skin tone as I do that, and then it changes back. So I'm trying to make it so I'm not washed out, but my camera gets mad at me whenever I wear shirts that aren't white. I don't have a pitch for a fifth Indiana Jones movie. I don't want to Harrison Ford, 80-year-old Harrison Ford in the 70s, looking for artifacts, battling. I don't know. I don't know who you battle. Indiana Jones movies, they're not even ones that I know that you need, like Lost City of Atlantis. Get someone to replace Harrison Ford. Do 1938, 1936, Lost City of Atlantis. The Nazis are looking for it too. That's the pitch for the movie. You don't need to have what's the hook to make it exciting? Then it's an adventure against the Nazis looking for an artifact. That's the hook. And I think you just need to get back to kind of that core thing. And you don't need to go, his dad's in this one and his son's in this. You don't have to do all that trying to find a way to one-upmanship it. But I don't want an 80-year-old Harrison Ford Indiana Jones movie.
It's basically Up. The end of Up is
Exactly.
Indiana Jones 5.
Exactly.
What Lantern Corps would you be a member of?
I don't have an answer to that. I don't have a strong enough deep insights into...
Are you doing Pixar ratings anytime soon?
Yeah, in 2 weeks.
When
13
Incredibles comes out?
Yeah, in 13 days I'll have one out, and then in about 10 days I'm going to rank the Cars and Planes movies together. That's my plan.
Worst movie-going experience?
Worst movie-going experience? I don't know. Like I went to go see Jupiter Ascending at a press screening, 3D, and the movie was out of focus. So that's kind of awful. And this is bad, but I was joking around with the person next to me and cracking little jokes because the movie's kind of terrible too, but it's a fun terrible, and it was out of focus, and so it's just a lot of but so I wouldn't say it was terrible, but certain things about it were terrible. But I don't have one that immediately comes to mind. When I went to see 10 Things I Hate About You, there was sound issues and the sound was cutting out. But oh, I know. When I went to go see Insidious, The Last Key in January, there were high school boys in front of me that before the movie started were watching porn on a phone. And like, like, is this real? Then the movie started, and they weren't too poorly behaved until about the second half. And going into the second half of the movie, there was a girl that was like passed out or something and laying down. And in true horror movie fashion, she was wearing like a tank top, spaghetti strap. And so it wasn't like all out like objectifying or anything like that. But you could see the curves of her body. And so every time this girl would be on screen, they would play some clip from some funny thing that was just crass as can be, implying they were aroused by what they were seeing. Every single time it cut to this girl, they would play this. And I kept like, am I hearing something right now? Like what? Yeah, every time that girl shows up, I'm hearing something. And then I was able to hear just enough. I was like, is this really happening? And then I was just trying to finish watching the movie because I needed to review it for my channel because I was going to do a ranking of the Insidious movies. And so I didn't want to walk out for that reason. And so it's one of those ones that I just wish I would have, like in the middle of the theater, threatened to beat the crap out of the guys. Because they're high school guys. They're smaller than me. I could take them. And I'm not an ageist or anything like that. And so I think it's wrong that I can't beat up high school boys that are showing porn in the middle of a movie theater. Is that a fair thing to say, that I want to beat up high school boys? Is that, she's saying no. Scratch what I just said.
I understand why you would like them to not do that.
Just people behaving like that. I just don't someone
get it.
Needs to.
Why would you pay money to go to a theater to behave that way? Like why?
And how selfish do you have to be?
Yes.
Like what do you have to be in the middle of a theater and all I care about is making my buddy next to me laugh, even though we're in a theater, there's 200 people in it, and they're playing a clip on their phone every single time something happens. It's obviously like doing that stuff in the middle of a movie. So selfish.
What Marvel character is your dream to be in the MCU, and what actor would play it?
I didn't have an actor pick. I can't do that off the top of my head. But I want the X-Men and Fantastic Four to come over. I don't have I want this character. It's the Fox characters to come over, and I want that to be Phase 4.
Do you think they should make an Old Man Logan original Netflix series?
I don't think they would, because they did allusions to it with Logan, and so they just wouldn't do something like that. And they wouldn't do it because you can make a lot more money with a movie with Wolverine. Would I be interested? And then to do an actual Old Man Logan one, doesn't Hulk play a big part in it? And there's characters in it that are too expensive to do for a Netflix show, I would imagine. So I think there's like practical reasons it would never happen. Would I be interested in sure, but a great version of any Marvel thing that's kind of classic stuff I'd be interested in.
Between these three, which is the best TV series? Arrow, Flash, or Supergirl?
Not Supergirl. And there's things about it I really like, but there's other things to it that I don't know if it's just kind of like the certain sentimentalities of the show. Like Arrow has certain sentimentalities to it that just appeal to me because of the vigilante guy goes to an island, comes back and beats people up and kills people. That's appealing to me, just the gentle sentimentalities of that.
Oh, goodness.
Excuse me. You like fun, so Flash sentimentalities tend, like when the show's good, that's what you gravitate towards. And then there's like a melodrama girl relationship stuff with Supergirl that's the sentimentality for some of they're like the flavor that they're trying to put on that one. That's not my flavor. Which
like balanced it better in the very beginning. Like I felt like it wasn't too girl drama in the very beginning. But
like they did I just remember they were doing the crossover event stuff the first time, and they promoted it as a 4-night crossover. So night one was Supergirl, but it wasn't really night one of the crossover. It was just an episode of Supergirl where all sorts of big stakes were happening, and it teased the upcoming with the Flash kind of popping up a little bit. And in this episode where it's one of 4 nights of a crossover where there's big stakes going on with Kryptonians, or it's not Kryptonians, but like Kryptonians, and the whole thing was about character drama and relationships and will people get together, and I was like, why are you doing this? Like, how are you missing what the plot of the episode is to have people stop to have these conversations? It was just not my thing. I don't know how I would pick between Arrow and Flash because Arrow has had a bunch of seasons to go way downhill. Flash has dipped a little bit, but not as far. But it also hasn't had time to go back up. So I don't know which I would pick. If I'm on a desert island, I'd go Arrow. Maybe I'll say that.
Okay, this is a little bit of a stretch, but I feel like you're going to have an answer to it, so I'm going to ask you anyway. Which sexual harassment allegations saddened and shocked you the most?
Which sexual accusation saddened me the most? Yeah, I mean, I think most people that are of our age, and I think you just kind of have to go with Bill Cosby.
Oh, that's not who I mean, yes.
I mean, it's hard to go with to not kind of go with him because especially if you understand the full history of the importance of Bill Cosby's career that became a TV actor, a black TV actor in the 60s, a hit stand-up comedian in the 60s while civil rights movement is going on. He's one of these people that kind of was breaking through and then jumped forward 20 years into the 80s and does the Cosby Show, and he has the a TV show about a black family is the #1 show on television, and it was kind of designed to not present them in a negative light in playing to stereotypes or things like just trying like a normal healthy family, and just like very like things about what he was trying to do with his career that's very important. And then likewise beyond that, just so much of the work that he was doing about family values and dads being involved in families and selling Jell-O pudding pops, all these sorts of things that are like really important causes that mattered beyond entertaining people, and family values at the core of so much of it. And then you find out he's a rapist.
He was just interwoven into the culture.
Yeah, I mean, just so
the kids show that like what kids say, funny.
Yeah, kids say the darndest things.
So funny, so cute, very family friendly.
And just even in like parenting things, where like we started having kids 5 or 6 years ago. How old are my kids? 6 years ago. And even when you talk about the language that people that would give us parenting advice, they quote Bill Cosby routines. Like that's a normal thing for people to quote Bill Cosby routines to talk about parenting. And now when they do that, they have to be like, I don't want to like get awkward, but in that Bill Cosby routine, and the dad's like, Dad made a chocolate cake. That really is what it's like. Dad likes to give the kids chocolate cake for breakfast, and then Mom has to be, and they just reference it. And so it's just heartbreaking that how horrible of a human being he turned out to be, and it just undermined like it's all the things that he stood for, all the good things that he represented, worked towards, gone.
Okay, I totally agree.
And I love his stand-up, so I can't listen to it anymore. Like it's just infuriating. Who did you think I was gonna say?
Allison Mack.
That's a different. That's
just because we're talking CW shows.
That's a whole different level. Like
totally
so, Allison Mack. It's Chloe from Smallville. Our daughter's named Chloe, and it's not a coincidence. It's not one-to-one.
It's not direct.
It's not direct, but it's not indirect either. And there's other thing, a couple other like there's Chloe on 24, but they're all tied together where we liked the name. And so she was arrested like 2 weeks ago for running a sex trafficking cult. It's so
horrifying.
Like just horrifying, weird branding people, just insane stuff. But I would say that's not sexual harassment. That's a different category. Because it's an actual cult. So I don't like it's all these other levels to it. But she doesn't stand for anything. That's on a personal level. It's like, oh crap, my daughter's named Chloe after her, and she's leading a sex cult. Like, do I need to change my daughter's name?
No, you don't need to change her name.
That's funny. Like that's amusing to me, and it's like horrifying that this person that seems so normal is running a sex slave cult. But Bill Cosby that is kind of a crushing blow to an element of culture and kind of taking a piece of innocence and just real heartbreaking stuff.
Someone uploaded your laugh on Snapchat.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. I need to know where we're at on time. I can't see online.
We're at an hour and a half. We got to go because we got to finish the Flash. So,
you need to set a time and.
I
have questions that I can continue to ask
more.
You. I just 9 more minutes.
Someone asked me if I'm going to review The Revenant. No, it's too late because the movie already came. I haven't seen it actually, but it's tough to go back and review a movie that came out 2 years ago. They just don't get traction or interest if they're not tied to something else. And that's not really tied to anything. So I wouldn't imagine that I would do something like that. Jeremy Jahns or Chris Stuckman, I don't have I watch both of them. I view Jeremy Jahns as more of a movie reviewer. I'm more in line with what he's doing, trying to talk about movies the way people talk about movies. Chris Stuckman is trying more to be an actual movie critic and kind of be the modern version of kind of a Siskel and Ebert or something like that. He's trying to be a critic. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to... And Jeremy Jahns just trying to be dudes talking about movies. And so I don't like to have to pick between the two of them. I find Jeremy Jahns to be more entertaining. I find Chris Stuckman to be maybe a little bit more depth. Both of them have value in their takes on movies from my perspective. One being more from an analytical perspective. One being more of the just normal dude chat.
Would you ever collaborate with Chris Stuckman?
Chris Stuckman wants to collaborate with me. I will collaborate with him. I am so I don't know, because most of my subscribers have come from the last few months, and so and I'm at 40,000 subscribers, which seems, I don't know how big that seems. Some people make it seem small. Some people it sounds huge. When you're just me, there's not 40,000 people in the city we live in, so that's huge to have 40,000 subscribers. But a few months back, I had under 10,000 subscribers. 6 months ago, I had under 5,000 subscribers. So I still think about myself as this person in this small little corner of the internet that has no celebrity. I've never been recognized out in public or anything like that. Nobody knows who I am. My coworkers are surprised to learn that I do YouTube stuff. And they're like, wait, you have a YouTube channel? Oh, you've got a lot of subscribers. Wow, interesting. Why do you deliver paint? And so I don't think, I'm like a nobody in my mind that just talks movies from time to time. Not time to time. I talk movies because it's my hobby, and it's just turning into something. But Chris Stuckman has over 1 million subscribers. So on every level, he's way up here, and I'm just starting to make my way up. So if he wants to do something with me, I will say yes. And if he tells me I have to fly out to where he lives to appear on a video on his channel, I'll do that. We can make an arrangement to make that happen. So if you guys want to start messaging him about lining that up, I'll be on board.
Didn't you do a Ready Player One review?
Yeah, I have a Ready Player One review up.
Okay, that's what I thought. So that exists for those of you who are asking. Have you watched Merlin, Doctor Who, or Sherlock?
No-ish, yes-ish, yes-ish.
He's not really into British shows.
Yeah, a lot of the British stuff just hasn't clicked with me. I've watched, I think, 8 episodes of the first series of Doctor Who, of the current one that started 10 years ago or whatever, and it just never clicked with me. I watched then season 3 of Torchwood because I'd heard great things about it, and I dug that more than I liked series 1 of Doctor Who, but I didn't love it. I just liked it more than I liked Doctor Who. It hadn't, for whatever reason, and people tell me all the time, you don't like Doctor Who? They're just shocked, but for whatever reason, it just hasn't clicked with me. Haven't watched Merlin at all. Haven't watched any of it. And we watched series 1 of Sherlock. And I'd like to watch more of it, especially now that, we've watched all this other Cumberbatch stuff that we're like, oh, Cumberbatch. So we need to go back and watch it.
Awesome Dude 900 did a super chat.
Thanks, buddy.
And you said, hey.
Hey.
And I don't know if you saw, but the Revenant question was also a super chat. And I can't pronounce it because it's a bunch of letters.
Okay.
A bunch of letters and then gaming. So
thank you for the super chat. Sorry, I haven't seen The Revenant. That's why I can't do more with that one. And whenever I'm late on things, then it doesn't work. There's another super chat from Ethan Miranda Gale. Okay. You're missing some of these.
That one's new. I mean, they come fast.
All right. Bernthal is the best Punisher. Love your channel. Thank you so much for watching. Yeah, he's great. She could testify to this. There's this diner scene in season 2 of Daredevil. Watched it over and over. I just thought the performances, the dialogue, everything about it was great. She makes fun of me for some of that stuff. Like, why do you keep watching this stuff? You just want me to be murdered so you can avenge me. Like, yeah, but doesn't every man want his wife to be murdered and kids to be murdered so he can avenge them? That's the definition of a man, I thought, based off all these movies I've seen.
What does it mean to be Stuckmanized? That's me asking.
So at the end of all of Chris Stuckman's videos, he says something, and if you're watching this, you've been Stuckmanized. And so that's like my video. I say I don't want to just talk about movies. I want to talk about movies with you. He says, and you've been Stuckmanized. So I don't know why I'm saying it with that accent. And then Jeremy Johns punches the camera.
That's funny.
So you just have some sort of little hook that you do at the end.
Do you think that Solo is going to make more than Justice League?
No, it won't. It's going to make less. Both internationally and domestically and globally. I think all are going to be less than Justice League.
No, not every man wants his wife to be murdered, Sean. That might just be you.
Oh, there's a record of that now, isn't there?
That's horrid.
I watched all these action movies, and it made me think that that's the best thing that can happen to you in life.
That's not even true. You're being horrible.
I'm being horrible?
Yes. Okay. Have you heard of Isle of Dogs?
No, I don't know what dogs are.
Isle of Dogs.
Oh, Isle of Dogs, the Wes Anderson movie.
Yeah,
I just haven't seen it. It didn't show up at my local theater that I watch movies at, so I didn't catch it.
Do you plan on watching it?
I'm sure I'll watch it eventually, but also right as it came out, my channel was kind of shifting from directions from movie review channel to something else, and so it was also the sort of movie that I don't even know if I would have reviewed if I had seen it. If I couldn't watch all the Wes Anderson movies in time to rank them.
Hold on, sorry, moved to Super Chat. Darth Vader or Kylo Ren? Oh, sorry, from Casey Ward. Darth Vader or Kylo Ren?
Darth Vader, 100%. I mentioned this earlier. Kylo Ren is just it seems like an oddly characterized person. The way he's portrayed, the way he's written, it all feels off to me. Because he's supposed to be this Darth Vader type character, but then they're showing him as this brooding, whiny person. It just feels off.
They don't want me to be murdered. There's lots of clamoring for me not to die.
You guys have some wisdom.
Much.
You guys have some smarts. Not me. I'm dumb.
Favorite and least favorite shark movie?
Jaws, best. Deep Blue Sea 2, worst.
Fair.
There's a ton of horrible shark movies, though.
So many.
You're just picking between a pool of
Sharks
garbage.
in Venice is really bad. I would have to rewatch Open Water. There were aspects of it that I didn't appreciate. But anyway, The Only Lazarus did a super chat.
Thanks.
Do you think they'll connect the ending of Ant-Man and the Wasp to Infinity War, or do you think it will just be standalone?
My guess is that, yes, they will tie. That would be my theory, is that there's going to be something in the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp, possibly either where the movie ends or post-credit, that will tie heavily into it. My theory is that he goes subatomic at the end of the movie, and maybe he's gone at the end of the movie, and he comes back for Avengers 4. That's my theory. Just a theory. Very unlikely it's going to happen, but that he goes subatomic at the end is what I'm guessing happens. And my other guess is that the movie takes place like 6 months or something before Infinity War, 3 years before or something. Or it takes place shortly after Civil War is my guess.
In a battle between the Spider-Mans, who would win? Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, or Tom Holland as Spider-Man? So, not as the actors, but as their Spider-Man.
Tom Holland, because he has that Tony Stark suit.
Yeah, he does.
I don't like the Tony Stark suit, but he has it, so he's going to win.
Yeah. Are you excited for Aquaman?
Yeah. James Wan film. So, I dig James Wan. There hasn't been drama behind the scenes on it that we've been hearing about. And if there's any trouble with a DCEU movie, that leaks like crazy to the universe. So we haven't heard anything about that movie. James Wan's a really solid director, and it'll be interesting to see him take on this type of material. So that's another question we get asked every time.
Is it? Oh, well, people aren't really sure about Aquaman, and so they're curious what you think about it. Are you going to rank
Actually,
the
it's
Gotham
the
seasons?
I'm not going to rank the Gotham seasons. I've watched it. I don't watch it close enough to have a strong enough opinion. I wouldn't have anything to say.
Best Arrowverse villain, if not Zoom, why?
Why would it be Zoom?
That's the question.
Ebon Throne. I mean, he was pretty great in season 1 of Flash. Deathstroke's pretty classic. Malcolm Merlyn is the villain turned anti-hero is pretty great. I mean, Zoom worked for that season as kind of who is it, what's kind of going on here. That worked out, and I dug all that. But I also didn't dig the second speedster in a row.
Super chat, Casey Ward.
Oh, thank you.
Do you like the DCEU or MCU?
I mean, the MCU's better. It's hard to not, like, by any reasonable objective standard, the MCU is much better. A much better run, much more consistent, and hasn't produced kind of actual train wrecks like Suicide Squad. Or something as bland as Justice League for a movie as important as that. So it's hard to not go with MCU. But I mean, I really like Man of Steel, and I have a lot of respect for Batman v Superman and what they were trying to do. It's a movie that has failed at a lot of things. I get why people don't like it, but it's trying to do something at least, and I appreciate what it was trying to do, enjoyed what it was trying to do. So yeah, but I think I kind of have to go MCU.
I'm just going to throw out there's a few Infinity War questions that are spoilery, so I'm just not asking you because of that.
Okay.
So just letting them know I'm not ignoring you. We're just trying to avoid massive spoilers.
Yeah, we don't. We try to anything that's kind of a current in theater type movie. We try to avoid spoilers on it because we don't want to be the person to spoil it.
Yeah, it's nothing against you. What is your opinion on Toy Story 4?
I mean, they have a good track record with movies, period. Good track record with Toy Story movies. But the trilogy ended pretty nicely. Like, that's an arc right there to where it locks in. So it's hard to know without knowing what the exact premise is and where they're going with it. But more importantly, Pixar was at its best when they were coming up with just these wild ideas. And like, what if there's a robot picking up trash? And what if there's an old man with balloons flying up in the sky? And what if there's a rat that's a cook or a chef? And what if you did a superhero movie that's not based on it? And you just had this stretch in the zeros. Just incredible. And then the last 10 years, a lot of sequels that are not as good as what was in the zeros. So the idea that they want to go back into a fourth Toy Story, at a certain point in time you go, whatever's driving the decisions scares me. Because it's marketing based. Like, we know that Finding Nemo, we know Incredibles 2, we know Toy Story 4, we know how to market that. And that's the reason you head in that direction. It's a safer bet than pitching a movie like WALL-E now. And the reason that they were so good for 15 years is because they were just taking these kind of crazy risks on projects and working the process and working hard and reworking stories until they worked. It wasn't, let's make the safest movie we can. Even Incredibles 2 looks like, okay, it's set a little bit after the first one, and one of the parents gets picked up by some organization to be a superhero again. That's like the first one. This is a rehash? Like, what's the hook that's different about this movie? So, anyway, those are my thoughts.
Super chat from the only Lazarus.
Thank you.
Last question. Do you think Infinity War will reach 2 million?
2 billion.
It's 2 billion.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like almost a lock. I mean, if it hasn't hit it already, I mean, we're getting close. So I think it's extraordinarily likely. And at this point in time, if it doesn't, it's the sort of thing where they would probably do some sort of re-release in a month or something like that just to push it over. Because it's so close that all you have to do is a quick little re-release and you can slap that label onto your movie. We have hit the $2 billion club.
Several questions about Oceans. You're doing a video soon, correct? On Oceans ranking or something? I'm asking you. They're asking about Oceans.
Am I ranking the Oceans?
You're doing something with Oceans, so why don't you tell them what you're going to be doing with Oceans, because I don't know your schedule.
Next Saturday, Oceans movie ranked. I'm debating as to whether I'm going to include the Frank Sinatra one or not. But Saturday morning, 6 a.m. Central Time, there'll be an Oceans video ranking them. Either all 4 movies or all 5 movies. I don't know yet. Depends on how the week goes.
From Mason Gamble.
Thank you.
Will Ant-Man and the Wasp have a good villain?
I think so. It seems like since the last 2-3 years, ever since Doctor Strange, they've upped their villain game. I wasn't crazy about Ego, but most people were. And then you got Vulture, Hela, Killmonger, Thanos. This is their best stretch of villains yet. It seems like that's what they figured out was, all right, our characters are established now. We're not doing origin stories. Our villains are what we're going to put the effort in on now. Like, that's where we're going to do our villains right. And even with the trailers, I'm pretty sure they're not showing us enormous portions of Ant-Man and the Wasp. If you just look at the way the trailers are cut, it looks like there's a fight sequence on a street that they show us a ton of. And then there's a fight sequence in a building with Ant-Man and the Wasp beating people up in a kitchen. What's the rest of the movie, though? Like, it seems like there's so much of the movie that we haven't seen. Michelle Pfeiffer's in the movie. What? We haven't seen her. Yeah, Michelle Pfeiffer is Hank Pym's wife. She's the one that disappeared. She's the original Wasp.
What?
And so then there's almost certainly going to be some sort of big twist involving her or whatever happens with her. So
the real question is she going to be able to move her face? Sorry, because it was mean-spirited. I like Michelle Pfeiffer. The last movie I saw her in, she couldn't move her face. Do you have a favorite Harry Potter movie?
I mean, I ranked them, whatever one I said in my ranking. I
would guess yours is Prisoner of Azkaban, would be my guess.
Yeah, Prisoner of Azkaban, quirky direction, and then time travel is pretty interesting. I think in my ranking I did the 5th one. The one with the Umbridge.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
So I think I had that one way up there. Those two that I think I'd have pretty high. I'm just not a Harry Potter person, so I don't have a strong enough opinion to really be like, I'm gonna fight you on this one. I just not like that for that franchise.
Who's your favorite Batman?
Kevin Conroy, of course. I have a video on that too.
Oh, that's a good one.
But in that video, Christian Bale's on top. But there's a video where I talk about all of them that have been in a theatrically released, wide theatrically released Batman movie. So it doesn't have the serials. People are always like, you forgot about the 1940s serials. Those aren't movies. Those are serials. That's why you call them the Batman serials.
What do you think about an MCU video game where each movie is its own chapter and they all have their own distinct feel, like the Winter Soldier puzzle level?
I think there's something to doing this big kind of epic, the Marvel saga or something like that, where you kind of tell these stories and there's kind of shifts in the gameplay and genre of it. The problem you run into is if there's too big of a change to where it's like this one's an action level and then this one's a puzzle, is that you don't have the nature of the game doesn't hit a demographic. If you want an action game, you don't want a puzzle game, and so that if you shift so much to where it doesn't work right. You can do things within a certain realm. Star Wars Battlefront, you can shoot people with lasers and you can fly a ship, but it's the same. It's a continuation of the same sort of thing and same sort of interface. It's not shooting people and then let me puzzles and work this out and where do the lines wind up with one? Can you plug it in? Those are two very different things. So I don't think it would work on that level if it was that different. Having some sort of big saga, that could be very interesting. Using Battlefront as kind of a template of sorts. I'm not locked in on Battlefront as this amazing game, but the general idea of the way Battlefront works, I think you could make something a lot of fun playing as these Marvel characters and battling each other in the game and then multiplayer. I think that's my pitch. Battlefront for Infinity War, except it's Battlefront with the Marvel characters.
Solid. Who do you prefer, Spawn or Hellboy? And which reboot are you most looking forward to?
Neither.
Neither.
I haven't seen any of the Hellboy movies. I watched the Spawn cartoon from the 90s that was on HBO. But I'm not a big enough fan of either one to have an opinion, actually. So
I'll say Spawn only because of Soul Calibur. When I was in college, I played Soul Calibur with some of my guy friends, and I don't know what button I hit, but I found the special button when I was Spawn, and I destroyed everyone all the time, and I never played before. And it was
interesting.
It was like a thing that I was proud of, which it's really not. I should be proud of it because it was just a button, but they were impressed at the time.
Hey, Peter's in here.
Butler?
Yeah.
Hi. Oh,
he says, "How do you feel about post-credit scenes in general?" This is a guy that was in my wedding. We were in each other's wedding parties, and I had dinner with him last night. And he's one of the people I go to movies with on Wednesdays. So he asked me, "What do I think about post-credit scenes in general?" I think for something like the MCU, they work great. And because it's an ongoing franchise where they have a schedule planned for what's coming next, in that context, having post-credit scenes works very well and very nicely. Or in the case of sometimes when they just have a fun scene at the end, I think those are nice. When they're not inside of something like the MCU, they're weird. Go back to the original one I know of, Masters of the Universe. Movie ends, credits roll, and then Skeletor pops up and says, "I'll be back." 30 years later, where are you? When are you coming back? What time is this happening? And so I think they're kind of dangerous in that regard. Or the end of Super Mario Brothers. Daisy pops back in, or Prince Peach, whatever, pops back in. "I need your help!" And then
It's not one I saw.
You didn't see the Super Mario Brothers movie? You're missing out. It's a classic. But I
don't even remember the ending.
I enjoy them, and I think in certain types of franchises, they serve a very cool purpose. Other places, they feel kind of off. What do we have?
Super chats. Casey
2?
Ward.
Probably need to close out with these then.
Okay. Casey Ward. What do you think about Spider-Man Homecoming 2?
So I've already talked about it a little bit. That they announced. They didn't announce that. Rumor from a reliable source, legitimate movie outlet, Jake Gyllenhaal is in discussions to play Mysterio. And then likewise, Michael Keaton's returning. Not necessarily as the Vulture, but he's returning. So that's what we kind of know about it. They're not going to kill off Tom Holland. He's going to come back. He's going to be in the sequel. I'm excited. I liked Homecoming. A nice, fun, simple word for it. Fun with a youthful high school vibe to it. So just kind of an interesting little take inside the MCU. I dug it. And so I'd be very down for doing more in that world. And Jake Gyllenhaal seems to be a great person to throw in that world.
Okay, this isn't a super chat, but I'm just going to say it anyway. A lamb, a drum, and a snake fall down a hill. But
If you wanted to learn about her sense of humor.
Oh, they've been going all night. They've got some
you
really
just
good
did.
ones. I just haven't heard that one before. Okay, I lost it. John Sergio Super Chat. When did Law and Order SVU jump the shark?
I mean, I think in my real mind, it jumped the shark about 8 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. I just remember some episode happening where instead of it being about, we caught the guy and then there's a twist, it turns out it's this guy and then it goes on trial. Like, there was multiple... They started doing this thing where it wasn't just plot twists in the story. It was like hyper melodramatic twists. So halfway through the episode, someone shows up at the police station and guns down the suspect. But the suspect wasn't guilty. They were only a suspect. It was someone else. And now the twist in the episode is that the person that gunned down the person is on trial. And so the first half of the episode builds up this whole storyline about someone being raped or abused or something like that. They get gunned down. It's the wrong person. And now the plot shifts to being around the gunman. And they started doing a lot of stuff like that. And then they had episodes that would end and... the suspect commits suicide or something, like just so over the top. And they started doing that, I think, like 8 years ago. I don't remember that from the first 10 years of the show. So that's one place where it started to jump the shark. Then there was when Stabler left, and he kind of lost a little bit of the anchor of kind of what Stablerized the show a little bit.
Nice.
There, see, I thought I could maybe work one in for her. So I lost something with that. And then it feels like the last few years, it's gotten a lot more touching on politics of sorts, or picking a side in things in a way that's divisive, and just feels like they don't...
The thing at the end of the show is no longer even remotely accurate. Or the beginning. Incidents in the show, if they represent something true, are completely unintentional. Like they're...
But that's not what it says. Because one of the things about Law and Order that's where it's tricky. Because I think they've gotten... The premise of the original show Law and Order, or the original tagline of the original show Law and Order, was ripped straight out of the headlines. And so they would intentionally in Law and Order do that thing where it's like, that guy's Michael Jackson. That guy, like, that's intentional. They've always done that intentionally. And they kind of at times have done it more or less. So that one's more to the core of the show. It doesn't seem like they're doing it as well. Or they're doing it in a way that just was very off-putting to me when New Yorkers behave that way. We're Texans, and so we view the world differently. Felt like they were talking down to us.
Well, they said I shouldn't quit my day job because I have a punny sense of humor. So apparently that disqualifies me from lots of gainful employment.
Do we have a final question? Or
that was our last super chat.
If you have one final killer question for me. If you guys want to try and send the best question there is.
That is so stressful. Yeah, why don't you look?
I do not play Super Smash Brothers. My son does. It's way too frantic for me. I never got it. I've tried to do it. Favorite Weird Al parody? The one that I sing the most is MacArthur Park, Jurassic Park. That one I break into song on that one probably the most.
All the time.
Do you like Nintendo? Yeah, I've always liked Nintendo. We've got a Wii. We don't have a Wii U or Switch yet. Probably next Christmas I can imagine us getting. My son being... they're not violent. Less violent games.
That's good.
So I'd imagine something like that. Thoughts on Kathleen Kennedy? Let's end on that one. My thoughts on Kathleen Kennedy. So on my channel, I thought about making a video, and then John Campea made a video where he talked about his 5 reasons that he thinks she should be gone. And I watched and I went, that's my take. What he said is my take. My thoughts, his voice, and his amount of research. So I shared it in my feed. So I think I don't even know where in my community tab on my page, you can find a link to that video, or just go to John Campea. I don't know why you go to my page. Go to John Campea's page, his take on it. That's essentially my take on it, which is to say she should step down because first off, her number one job is to secure the right directors and minimize issues. And we've gotten 4 of Star Wars movies from her, and we've had 4 gigantic director issues. And there was a big writer issue too with Michael Arndt on The Force Awakens. But Rogue One, you didn't fire Gareth Edwards, but he's basically replaced to do all the reshoots. You had Josh Trank was fired from doing a Boba Fett movie. You had the guys being fired off, Lord Miller being fired off of Solo, and then you had Colin Trevorrow being fired off of Episode 9. And they've only done 4 movies. They've put 4 movies out, and they've fired 4 directors. That's bad. And it goes to credibility. It goes to her ability to discern who they should hire, her ability to kind of run the thing, have a visionary take on it. Isn't doing all that great. The other big one for me is that Star Wars is so divided right now. And it's a toxic divide. It's the comment sections on my videos, other people's videos on Twitter. It's nasty. It's angry. And there's people that feels like just mean. It feels like people have had their hearts ripped out. And it's in all different directions. Just so toxic. And she hasn't done anything to try and make it right. She hasn't put out like a video to kind of talking about it. She hasn't done interviews. She hasn't tried to win people over. And, I think today saw a tweet like, it's not the job of Kathleen Kennedy to win the fans over. It's not her job to make movies that they want. It's not her job to try and unify this fan base. And you go, kind of it is. Like, she's the face of Star Wars. And we're not talking about just some other, Ocean's movies or something like that. We're talking about Star Wars. It's a community. She's the person in charge of Star Wars. And you can be a hero like Kevin Feige, or you can be the person that's the producer that everyone hates, as Kathleen Kennedy is right now. And she's not doing anything to win people over. Anything at all. And that's frustrating. She's not, and doesn't seem like she's listening. There's all sorts of quotes that seem questionable. And the big other one for me is she's making the Star Wars universe smaller. She keeps going to Rogue One, New Hope, prequel. Solo, New Hope, prequel. Rebels, New Hope, prequel. Obi-Wan, New Hope, prequel. Boba Fett, probably New Hope, prequel. Small universe, same time frame, same set of characters. It's just such safe storytelling, but in the worst way, because it wasn't safe at all. Solo, embarrassing for the Star Wars movies doing that bad. And she's the one greenlighting these safe, obvious, lack of creativity in the concept type movies. Solo is not a creative concept for a movie. Everyone could predict, what if they did on Solo prequel? And that's what they did, and it's exactly what you thought it would be. I dug it, but it's not because it was like this great concept. And you could go old Knights of the Old Republic, you could go off the universe this other way, you can just go off to some planet, and you don't even define when it's taking place in the Star Wars universe. No, let's just do a bunch of prequels to A New Hope. And she's doing that. She's not expanding the Star Wars universe. And I think she needs to go. Pretty obviously that she needs to go. And even people like, look at how much money these movies made under her. Under her? You mean because of their Star Wars movies? Do you think there was a point in time where The Force Awakens wasn't going to open up and make bukus of money? That movie was always going to make a ton of money. People are always going to be curious about the first spinoff. And then once you get a few into it, you see the fall off. Solo. That's where we got far enough into it with this pure idea, like what happens once the momentum's died down. Solo. And it's probably not going to be profitable, or just barely profitable. What do you got?
Lots of people are asking about Fortnite. Do you want to share your...
Kirk never died. I'm on PlayStation 4. I don't know if that matters, but Kirk never died, one word. That's my Twitter handle, and it's my Fortnite handle. And I haven't been on there in a couple weeks just because Liam and I have been so into Battlefront.
Final super chat, and we got to cut it off.
Yeah, this is it right here.
Casey Ward, do you think there will be a Doctor Strange 2?
That's a tough one. I think so, but they haven't announced it yet. So that's why I'm curious. If it wasn't for the fact that, well, that was a stupid thing. I was about to say, if they'd announced it, I would think it's happening. Makes me an idiot. I'm little Yogi Berra-isms. Movies that have been announced might happen. I'm surprised they haven't announced one yet. So I don't know if that ties into wherever they're going with Phase 2. I don't know if that's because what they're planning on doing is making Doctor Strange a character that pops in other people's movies. I'm not quite sure what that means. Or that means he's actually going to die, which I hope doesn't happen. I dug his movie. I liked it a good bit, but I didn't rewatch it until I was re-reviewing it for my Journey to Infinity War series. But I really dug the character in Infinity War. He made me go, I want to see more of this character. I really like what they're doing. So I hope we get more of him. But I don't know. I don't know. There you go. Thank you guys so much for watching. Sticking with 2 hours, and we are still at 89 people watching. It means the world to me that you actually care about what I have to say. Want to watch us bicker back and forth on all this fun stuff as I threaten to kill her. Or not, I didn't threaten to kill her. I didn't threaten to kill her. I threatened to be excited about you being...
Now.
It is. There's not good. I said that I might have wanted you to be... I wanted to avenge you as a vigilante. I thought that was romantic. I found out during this live stream it's not...
Just to clarify, no.
Oh,
just in case
she's not
fans that want to...
We don't want her to die. That's our official stance. We want her to live, and the kids too.
Thank you.
But thank you so much for tuning in for my wacky rants and silly jokes, and that you care. It's so much fun. And it's been fun to talk movies with all of you wonderful, wonderful people. Hopefully we'll be back next Sunday night for another Sunday Night Live. See you then.